Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here. Behind me I have a 2004 Toyota. It has a 4.7 liter V8 engine in it, and it needs some service work. I'm going to split this up into two videos. Most of what I'm going to be doing underneath is changing some fluids. In this video, I will be changing the transmission fluid and filter. And in the other video, I will be changing the differential fluids and also lubricating the drive shafts, which I believe are the only serviceable part on this vehicle. So for the purposes of this video, we are going to talk about changing the transmission fluid and filter. So the first step is to get the vehicle up off the ground. All four wheels, in fact, is what I'm going to do with this. So I'm going to get my floor jack out and my jack stands and get this thing up in the air so that we can get up underneath it and start doing some servicing. I think it's worth mentioning before we jack this Toyota up is that I did consult with the Toyota scheduled maintenance guide that was found in the glove box of this vehicle as far as when this service should be done. It doesn't specifically state a given mileage, but the first time it's mentioned is around 30,000 miles as far as changing the transmission fluid. And that's under severe conditions or what have you. But in the case of this vehicle, I asked the owner when the last time it was done, and he doesn't remember. It currently has 154,000 miles on it, so maybe it's time we did those things. Let's get this thing up in the air and get these fluids changed.
Now, since we can't necessarily jack up where we're putting the jack stands, I'm going to go right up underneath where this lower control arm attaches to the subframe here. It's a nice sturdy area. It's holding up the weight of the car anyway, and it's a good place to jack things up, in my experience. And since our Toyota is a full frame vehicle, it's very easy to figure out where we're going to put our jacks. This basically supports the whole weight of the vehicle as it is, and everything's bolted to it. It's kind of like its spine, its skeleton. So placing your jack stands underneath there, it's a good solid piece of metal. You're good. Now for lifting the rear, I'm going to go right underneath the center of the differential and just lift that up. Some people have issue with this, but I don't. It's supporting the weight of the vehicle, and it's a very stout housing. Now remember, I'm trying to keep everything at the same height. So I'm leaving my jack stands all at the same height. And these, I'm putting slightly farther ahead. If there's this little hump that comes down for this trailing arm, I'm gonna put those on both sides just in front of that, and I should be okay. Firmly on our jack stands, not going anywhere. I'm just gonna open the hood, let a little more light down underneath. Now that we've raised the vehicle up, in the other video I took off the rear brush guard, splash shield, whatever you want to call it, to gain access, full access to the transmission pan, so I could get all the fasteners out. And one of the things I absolutely love about these makes is they thought about making it serviceable. So they gave us a drain plug so we don't have to like drop the pan and have a bunch of fluid come out. There's still going to be some fluid coming out, but there's not going to be a lot. This is a 14 millimeter, and I've got my drain pan underneath here, and I'm just going to drain the transmission fluid out by removing the drain plug. Put this back in because we're definitely going to have our pan out to change the filter. Crush washers are a good idea to replace them. However, if they weren't leaking to begin with and you don't torque on them too much, I think you're fine. Dropping this pan is going to require dropping the exhaust. It would be great to just take this pipe off, but it looks like those fasteners are pretty rusty and these fasteners are in better shape. Personally, I really hate trying to drop Toyota exhaust, but I'm gonna, and the reason is these fasteners, for whatever reason, just don't like to come off. So I'm gonna soak these down with some penetrating oil and let those sit for a bit, and then I'm gonna try to hit them with my impact. And all I'm really looking to do is get it to drop down enough to get me enough clearance to drop that pan out of there so that I can get to the filter. Okay, the penetrating oil is soaked in for a little bit. If we're lucky, they'll come loose. If we're not lucky, we'll have to get the torch. Let's press our luck a little more. Alright, now that I've overcome that milestone, I'm going to put this a little bit of penetrating oil on these exhaust hangers. I got one up here in front of the muffler also. I'm going to peel off these hangers. One. The next phase is to undo all these 10mm fasteners around the circumference of the pan. But I just noticed that this particular O2 sensor is hanging pretty taut on this wire. So I'm just going to unhook that connector so that it can drop down. I can't do that one-handed, unfortunately. Now it's a matter of several of these fasteners. These are all 10mm. I'm keeping them all in my magnetic tray as they come down. There's all the front ones. Alright, let's work our way down the other side. That's all those. Alright, now comes the moment of truth. I am going to try to knock it loose with a mallet. I've repositioned my drain pan to be directly under it because we know there's going to be more fluid that gets lost. And I'm a little confused as to which way I should go. There's still a little bit of fluid left in here. My pan's not exactly in the best place. So I'm going to try to tip some of it forward, or I guess I'll try to tip it backwards actually. So I'll make sure that I'm able to catch it. Now I'm just going to try to sneak it past everything here. Wouldn't have been able to do that with the exhaust in the way. And there's our filter hanging out there. That's the filter right here. So let's go look at our new filter and see if it looks anything like that. I'm really hoping it does. Now the filter is held on by 4 fasteners. Here, here, and here. So here, 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 and here are where they are. And I'm going to loosen those fasteners now. Drop that bad boy down. Just to let you know, my new filter looks exactly like the old. So I'm very confident that I have the correct filter. Okay, we should be able to just wiggle it loose. And we're out. Now I'm going to take my new filter and I'm just going to take a little bit of that transmission fluid that's hanging around here and coat the O-ring. This has a new O-ring. Coat that with a little bit of transmission fluid. And then I'm going to just push it up into place. Once I hear it click, I know that it's home. All the fasteners are the same size, so you don't have to worry about getting them confused. I don't know the specific torque on this, but obviously you're torquing into the valve body, so you really don't want to get them up in there so hard they strip the aluminum. So go tight, but not OMG type. I am very happy with this surface. I'm just gonna wipe it off with my rag because there's no RTV, no nothing on this to get in the way. There's no gasket material. All the gasket materials seem to come off with the pan. Super pleased about that. That's going to save me a bunch of time. So I'm just going to clean up my pan, put a new gasket on it, fasten it back up to this transmission, and we'll fill it up. Okay, I'm going to first start by emptying out the pan. Now my 55-gallon drum for my oil is completely full, so I'm forced to use other means. There we go. I'm hoping this gasket's friendly to me. Yeah. Oh. See, when you just let the gasket do its work, you can see it was bone dry up under there. Bone dry. And there's no sealant on this. Nothing. Look at that. Perfect. I don't have to do any cleaning, nothing. I mean, it is perfect. It just all came off in one nice giant piece. Oh, that is one lucky break. Because when you see what we have to do to fill this transmission, since it doesn't have a dipstick, you'll be happy that this didn't cost me a bunch of work. Well, I'm happy it didn't cost me a bunch of work. Just going to clean the surface a little bit more. A little bit of brake clean.
Right, now my gasket, as you can see, was in a box, and it's not going to want to stay so much. I think this is, yeah, I think that's how it goes. It's a nice traditional cork gasket. Looks like that's how it goes. So let's put a little gasket adhesive on this and just sort of tack it in place just long enough so we can get it on the transmission. Okay, this is just a gasket adhesive is all this is. And it's just there to tack it into place. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to do this pan too because it's not quite sticking. I might get just enough out of it. Because that's all I want to do is I just want to hold it in place long enough so that it's up on the transmission and I got a few fasteners through it. Because that's the only reason I'm doing this. I sprayed a little bit on the pan also. This would be sticking a little bit better, but it's actually sticking just good enough, I think. I'm trying to avoid getting any contaminants in here. I think that'll be just good enough. Seems a little cumbersome right now, but once I get a couple of fasteners in and I get this flush up against the transmission, I think we'll be fine. But before I do that, I'm going to clean these magnets up a little bit. Probably should have done the magnets beforehand, but I'm going to be honest, I just forgot. I just got a little bit of metal on them. And that's all these are, is just little magnets. Here we are, clean magnets. I'm just going to tack a little bit on this side. There. That did it. I'm spraying away from the inside of the pan because I don't want to get this adhesive in the transmission. I suppose if I would have taken this gasket and put it under a bunch of books overnight or something like that to flatten it out, that might have been helpful. So if you go to do this and you got a mangled up gasket inside of a box, you might consider purchasing your filter the day beforehand and putting it under something and letting it sit there overnight. All right, now we have the somewhat arduous task of reinstalling this pan. Which I believe goes in just like this. And I've got a couple of fasteners ready because I'm just going to hold it up on all four corners and then I'll run the rest of them in as opportunity presents itself. And that's a little dance I'm going to do here, is I'm going to keep going from side to side until I get them lined up. And I want to make sure also that there's a gasket there that didn't roll over or something on me in the process of installation. And you don't want to run them down
You just want to make them snug. That way you got a little wiggle room when you go to put the next fastener in.
All right, now I will show you my trick that I also showed when I did this to the Subaru. You can get, for a drill chuck, you can get a 1/4 inch attachment, and I have my clutch set to, right around, what is that, 16 or so. So I've got my clutch set to around about 16. There is a specific torque to this. However, I've found that this gets it pretty darn close, at least from what I've seen. And all I do is I'll just go from one side to the other and run them down. And of course my battery's not doing so good, so I'll just use it to run it down, and then I'll tighten them down by hand afterwards. It's looking like, at least it's saving me some spinning. Yeah, my battery's dead. Well, usually the clutch on this thing stops it at just the right spot. That's not happening today, but no worries. The idea is not to over tighten. That's a mistake many make. As soon as it bottoms out, like give it like a 1/4 turn or so. And you don't want to tighten it so much that it deforms the gasket, because that'll cause a leak. There you go. Once again, not so much. You start to see the gasket squishing out. You just, once you see it compress, stop. You should be good with that. Now we gotta fill this bad boy and then reconnect our exhaust. Then run it through the gears.